They say your whole life can change in a single moment. But they never tell you how quiet that moment sounds. Mine was the soft click of a door locking behind me. A nursing home door. I was only 60. Not sick, not dying. Just inconvenient. "It's for your own good, Mama," my daughter said. Her voice trembled, like she wanted me to believe her. Like she wanted to believe it herself. But I knew better. I knew the truth long before she spoke it. I had become a burden. An interruption. Someone who didn't fit in their plans anymore. The nurse smiled at me the way people smile at stray dogs. Too kind. Too careful. Too fake. "Welcome home, Miss Harris," she said. Home. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to cry. But the shock sat so heavy on my chest I couldn't do either. I walked down the hallway, slow, quiet, almost floating. Every step felt like a goodbye. Goodbye to my freedom, my kitchen, my morning radio, my loud little porch where the neighbors complained I talked too much. Goodbye to everything that was mine. And yet, I held my head up. Not because I was strong, but because if I looked weak, I knew they'd never let me forget it. The room they gave me was small, like a childhood punishment. A tiny bed. A lonely window. A smell of bleach trying to bury the smell of old memories. I sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, "Lord, what did I do wrong?" But the room stayed quiet. So quiet it hurt. And that was the moment, that silence, when I realized nobody was coming to save me. If I wanted my life back, I would have to save myself. I didn't know then that a forgotten lottery ticket, tucked inside an old coat pocket, would become my way out. A $62.7 million miracle. But miracles don't come easy. Not for women like me. Not after everything I had lost. For the first few days in that place, I tried to stay invisible. But pain has a way of finding you, even when you hide. It was a Tuesday morning. The kind of morning where the sky can't decide if it wants to rain or just sit there and look miserable. Breakfast was oatmeal, cold enough to remind you nobody cared. I carried my tray slow, careful. My knees ain't what they used to be. That's when it happened. My foot caught the edge of a carpet that had been peeling up for months. My balance slipped. My tray flew. And I hit the floor hard. Silence first. Then something worse. Laughter. Two nurses at the counter, whispering, giggling like schoolgirls. One of them said, "She's always so dramatic." Dramatic. Lord, if only they knew how many times I had held myself together just to keep from breaking in public. Lying on that cold linoleum floor, I felt a heat rise inside me. Shame, anger, something wild. My hands shook trying to push myself up. My hip burned like fire. And the whole time, they kept laughing. But right when I thought I would have to crawl back to my chair, a shadow fell over me. A deep voice said, "Miss Harris, you all right?" I looked up, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. It was Mr. Coleman, one of the residents nobody talked to. Tall, quiet, eyes soft like he carried a lifetime of regret in them. People said he used to be a school principal, real respected. Now he just walked the halls like a ghost with a heartbeat. He reached out his hand, strong, steady, gentle in a way that felt almost sacred, and the entire room went silent. The nurses stopped laughing. Everyone froze like they had never seen kindness before. "Let me help you," he whispered. And for the first time since they locked that door behind me, I didn't feel alone. He lifted me slowly, careful of my hip, his arm strong around my back. I felt safe, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I wanted to thank him, but my voice cracked before the words could come out. When he finally sat me down, he gave me a small nod. Not pity, not judgment, just understanding. And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes God sends angels dressed like old men with tired eyes. And that fall, that humiliating, painful fall, was the beginning of everything that would come next. Days passed slowly, like molasses dripping in winter. The walls of that nursing home closed in on me. My routines became prison rituals: wake up, eat, shuffle, sleep. But one morning, I reached for my coat to go outside for a breath of real air, and something fell out. A crumpled lottery ticket. I stared at it like the world had stopped spinning. Memories came rushing back. I remembered buying it months ago at the corner store. I had stuffed it in that coat pocket and forgotten about it. Forgotten, like so many little pieces of my life. My hands trembled as I picked it up. The numbers, familiar but now alive, seemed to glow. Could it really be? I shuffled to the small TV in the common room. The news anchor read the winning numbers slowly, deliberately. My stomach dropped, heart racing, breath caught. Every number matched. Every single number. $62.7 million. I laughed first, then cried, then laughed again so hard the old woman next door peeked in. She didn't say anything, just smiled like she knew miracles sometimes happen for the quietest people. But reality hit. This ticket didn't just bring money, it brought choices. Could I escape? Could I reclaim my life? Or would greed and fear tie me here forever? I held that ticket close. It felt heavier than any bag of groceries I'd ever carried, heavier than shame, heavier than loss, but also full of hope. Mr. Coleman passed by, noticing the strange glow in my eyes. He didn't ask. He just nodded and said, "Whatever you do, make it count, Miss Harris." And I knew, in that small moment, that life was about to change forever, not because the lottery was won, but because I had remembered how to fight. That ticket, tucked away and forgotten, had become my key to freedom. And the journey out of that nursing home was just beginning. After discovering that lottery ticket, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced like a train that wouldn't stop at any station. How could I get out of here without making a scene? The nursing home had rules, cameras, and schedules tighter than a military camp. But I had one thing on my side: patience. And patience had been my secret weapon all my life. I started small, observing, watching the nurses' shifts, when the doors unlocked, when the front desk was empty for just a moment. Every day I mapped it out like a general planning a battle. Mr. Coleman noticed me pacing one evening. "Thinking about your next move?" he asked, eyes twinkling. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "Be smart," he said. "Don't rush. You've got the time and the leverage. Use it." His words hit me like sunlight through a cracked window. I realized he understood strategy, patience, and dignity, all things I almost forgot existed. Every day, I carried the ticket close to my heart. Not just as money, but as proof that my life still mattered. That proof gave me courage. That courage made me meticulous. I started collecting small things: extra clothes, snacks, anything I might need. Quietly, carefully. Nobody noticed. The nurses thought I was just organizing. Little did they know, I was organizing my freedom. The hardest part wasn't the planning. It was the waiting. The fear that maybe my daughter wouldn't forgive me. That she'd always see me as the old, stubborn mama rather than the woman I truly was. And then it hit me. It didn't matter what anyone thought. My life was mine. My choices were mine. And for the first time in decades, I felt alive. So I made a promise to myself. Every step I take from here on out, I take on my own terms. Every breath I draw freely. And when the time comes, I'll walk out of that place not as a victim, but as a survivor. The plan was ready. My spirit was ready. And the lottery ticket? It was the first key turning in the lock of my new life. The night I chose to leave, the world outside seemed still. Like it was holding its breath, waiting for me. I sat on my bed, the lottery ticket pressed to my chest, feeling my heartbeat like a drum. I packed the small bag I had been preparing for weeks. Clothes, snacks, a few important documents, everything I would need for the first step back into life. The halls were silent, only the hum of fluorescent lights keeping me company. My hands trembled as I tested the doorknob. Locked, of course. Patience, I reminded myself. Patience. I waited until the night nurse's rounds passed. And then, I slipped out. Quiet as a shadow, careful not to disturb a single memory in that place. Mr. Coleman had promised to create a distraction. And true to his word, he started coughing loudly in the hallway, drawing the staff's attention. My heart leapt. I moved faster, keeping low, moving toward freedom. I reached the main door. My fingers found the lock. My breath caught. And then, click. I was out. The cold night air hit me like a blessing. The city lights twinkled in the distance. Each one felt like a promise. I was alive. I was free. I had my life back. But the adrenaline didn't last long. Reality set in. I had nowhere to go, no plan beyond getting out. The money was there, but freedom came with responsibility, and I had to learn quickly. Mr. Coleman appeared behind me quietly. "One step at a time, Miss Harris," he said softly. And in his presence, I felt grounded, ready to face whatever came next. I clutched that ticket like a lifeline. Not just a ticket to wealth, but a ticket to reclaiming myself, my dignity, my story. That night, I realized freedom wasn't about escaping. It was about choosing to live fully, bravely, on my own terms. And I had just taken my first real step. The city felt different at night. Every streetlight, every shadow, every distant car horn felt alive. I had been trapped in silence for so long, I forgot how loud life could be. My coat hugged me close, and in my pocket the lottery ticket felt like a small burning heartbeat. Each step I took made my legs ache, but my spirit soared. I had no home to go to, no familiar door to open. Just the city, buzzing, waiting, offering a second chance. And for the first time in decades, I wasn't afraid of being alone. I found a small diner still open. The smell of coffee hit me like a memory I didn't know I had. I ordered a cup, black, and sat by the window staring at the street. Freedom tasted bitter and sweet all at once. I pulled out my phone, checking the lottery numbers again, almost afraid they'd change. But they hadn't. $62.7 million. Reality settled in. I could rebuild everything, or nothing. The choice was mine. I walked outside, letting the wind wash over me. The cold was sharp, but it reminded me I was alive, that my heart still beat, that my lungs still filled with air I could call my own. I started thinking about what freedom really meant. Not the money, not even the escape. Freedom was the right to make mistakes, to cry, to laugh, to rebuild without asking permission. Mr. Coleman had said, one step at a time. And now, under the dim glow of the streetlights, I realized each step counted, every choice mattered. And for the first time, I felt like I was walking toward something real. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I only knew I had left behind the fear, the ridicule, and the walls that tried to cage me. Tonight, I was my own person again, and that was everything. Freedom felt incredible, but it wasn't without ghosts. Memories from the nursing home kept creeping in, faces, voices, laughter, judgment. I realized that running away didn't erase what had been done to me. I thought about my daughter. I thought about her words, her trembling voice, the way she looked at me when she said, "It's for your own good, Mama." I wanted to feel anger, to yell, but instead I felt a heavy sadness. A sadness for both of us. I sat on a park bench, the city humming quietly around me. I closed my eyes and let the wind touch my face, imagining I could blow away the pain, one breath at a time. And then I thought about forgiveness. Not for them, not for my daughter, but for me. So that the weight of resentment wouldn't crush my chest and my spirit. I whispered to the empty night, I forgive you, even if you don't understand. It was a strange kind of freedom, one I hadn't expected. One that felt heavier and lighter at the same time. My past didn't vanish. But for the first time, I felt I could face it. I could remember the humiliation, the laughter, the loneliness, and still choose to move forward. Mr. Coleman's words came back to me, one step at a time. And now I realized facing the past was a step too. A step toward reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my story. I folded the lottery ticket carefully, placing it back in my coat. Not because I was afraid of losing it, but because I had learned that treasures are only powerful when your heart is at peace. And that night, under the dim glow of the city, I made a promise. I would carry my past with me, but it would not carry me. My life was mine again. Morning came with a soft golden light. The city buzzed with life, and I felt like I was seeing it for the first time. Every sound, every color, every step felt like a fresh beginning. I walked into a small cafe, my coat still hugging me tight. I bought a newspaper, something simple, ordinary, but it felt like a lifeline. I was back in the world, and the world didn't seem so scary anymore. I started thinking about what I wanted my life to look like now. Not what others expected, not what had been planned for me, but my choices, my rules, my dreams. The lottery ticket was still in my pocket, a quiet reminder that the past couldn't hold me hostage. I didn't need to spend it recklessly. I needed it to build a foundation, not a prison. I found a small apartment, cozy, safe, mine. I hung a few photos on the wall, bought a plant, and for the first time in decades I felt proud of a space that was completely my own. Friends started calling, checking in, surprised but happy to hear my voice. I laughed in a way I hadn't in years. Every word, every conversation reminded me that I still belonged somewhere. I even reached out to my daughter. Our first conversation was awkward, filled with silence, but it was honest. And honesty, I realized, was more valuable than pretending everything was fine. Slowly, I began volunteering at a community center. Helping others reminded me of who I used to be before the walls of that nursing home closed in. I was giving back, not because I had to, but because I could. Every step I took was deliberate. Every choice I made was mine. And the feeling of reclaiming my life, piece by piece, was sweeter than any dollar could ever be. That day, I realized freedom isn't just running away from the past. It's building something new from it. And I was finally ready to live. Months had passed since I left that nursing home. The city no longer intimidated me. Instead, it embraced me, full of possibility and challenge. I walked the streets with my head high, feeling the strength I had almost forgotten. Every step reminded me I had survived, I had overcome, I had fought for this life. I used the lottery money wisely. Not to flaunt, not to escape, but to invest in my independence. A safe home, a small business I always dreamed about, and a little savings to sleep peacefully at night. People noticed the change in me. Neighbors, co-workers, even strangers commented on my confidence. But I knew the secret. Confidence isn't about being fearless. It's about facing fear every single day and choosing to move forward anyway. My daughter visited more often. We laughed together, cried together, and slowly repaired the spaces that had been broken. Forgiveness and understanding became the pillars of our new relationship. I returned to volunteering, teaching young women how to budget, plan, and believe in themselves. Sharing my story made me realize pain can be transformed into power. Mr. Coleman and I became close friends. We shared coffee, memories, and quiet moments of reflection. His wisdom reminded me that life is full of second chances, if you're brave enough to take them. One evening, standing on my balcony, I looked at the city lights and smiled. I had faced the world, faced myself, and faced the past. And now I walked forward with confidence, dignity, and hope. The journey had been long, painful, and full of uncertainty. But every fall, every tear, every lonely night led me here. To a life I could finally call my own. Sitting on my balcony, watching the city shimmer under the evening sky, I felt a calm I hadn't known in decades. The journey from that locked door to this moment had been long, painful, and full of lessons. I remembered the laughter of the nurses, the cold linoleum, the fear and humiliation. I remembered falling alone, thinking nobody would help. And yet, somehow, here I was. I had money, yes. But more importantly, I had myself back. My dignity, my freedom, my story. I thought about forgiveness. Forgiveness for my daughter, for the nurses, for myself. Because holding on to anger would have only kept me trapped in the past. I reached out to my daughter once again, this time with patience, love, and honesty. And slowly we healed together. Our bond, though tested, became stronger than ever. I continued volunteering, helping others who felt lost, invisible, or trapped. Sharing my story reminded me, and them, that life doesn't end with hardship. It can begin again, at any moment, if you have courage. Mr. Coleman often sat with me quietly, sharing tea, smiles, and wisdom. "You see," he said, "life always gives a second chance. The key is to open the door yourself." I looked at the city lights and whispered to myself, I opened the door, I took my life back, and I will never let it go again. The lottery ticket had given me opportunity, but my courage, patience, and heart had given me true freedom. And as the night settled, I felt peace. Not just relief, but a profound gratitude for life, for survival, and for every small victory along the way. And so I sit here, 60 years old, with a life reclaimed, a story rewritten, and a heart ready to embrace whatever comes next. This is my life, my freedom, my miracle.